Welcome to our media channel. Here we try to share wisdom in detail, in depth. If you feel some of the discussions to be inaccessible or unfamiliar, we invite you to go over to the Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll find much more universal wisdom. We also invite you to join our Wisdom That Breeds community, where we're gathering individuals who want to make the world a more beautiful place by sharing wisdom.
Anyways. Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. You're listening to the Nam Ras podcast, the #1 Hare Krishna podcast in the world. I'm so delighted. Finally, we have Svayam Bhagavan Keshava Maharaja on the podcast.
It's like a year in the making or something.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Almost a year in the making.
Yes.
It's an honor to be here in the States and to be in New Jersey, to be with both of you. Wonderful. Really
Thank
happy.
you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. So, Keshava Maharaj doesn't need an introduction, but he's been traveling all over America recently, giving classes, has an amazing social media presence.
Prolific author, right?
Prolific author, yes.
10, 11 books and counting.
50 courses, which I just heard yesterday.
50.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's amazing. So we'll get into all that, but Venkata, you want to start off with your first?
I had a question. I thought maybe we could start here. And thank you.
Yeah.
You'd think I would have figured out this by now.
It's okay.
But anyway, you have somewhat of an unusual name. I mean, you go by Keshava Maharaj or SP Keshava Maharaj, but could you say your full sannyas name, and then maybe, if you feel comfortable, sharing the story of how you got this name, what your first kind of thoughts or impressions were when you heard it? All of that.
So my full sannyas name that I was given by Kadamba Maharaj is Svayam Bhagavan Keshava Swami. So it's quite a name to travel around the world with, It's like sometimes you're in front of an audience, and it's like Svayam Bhagavan. Like, who does this guy think he is? That's why I generally tend to shorten it to like SB or just Keshava Swami.
Well, there are probably some audiences where if you're introduced as Svayam Bhagavan, they think that that's not just your name, but that's a claim to actually being
Svayam
Bhagavan.
Think that,
right?
because the other thing is there's no das or there's no kind of other thing in it. You know? So like to qualify it.
Right.
So so when my spiritual master gave me that name, well, before I get to that, it's funny actually, because the last podcast we did was, I think you wanted to call it I'm About to Take Sannyas.
Yes, I wanted to call it that.
And I suggested, rather than calling it that, why don't you call it I'm About to Marry the Mission? Because I felt for me was like more, that was really the real thing behind it, more than taking sannyas.
Yeah.
So so we had that podcast, and in that run up to taking sannyas, I was actually speaking with Kadamba Maharaj many times. And one time, a few weeks before sannyas, he called me and he said, why don't we discuss your name and decide something together?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, but you're supposed to just get a name from the guru. Like, it's not really a discussion here.
Right.
And he was like, no, I want you to be comfortable with it. I want it to be something you're inspired by. And so we started talking. And after about 5 minutes, I was like, Maharaj, I think you should just choose the name. I don't want to be part of this decision.
Right.
And so he accepted that, actually. And I said, I'm just fully whatever you want to give me. And Maharaj, he was, as you know, Kadamba Maharaj, he's a very spontaneous person. He'd never prepare for classes. Even his kirtans were very like spontaneous. He would, so he always said, I don't work well under planning. I work well when I'm put on the spot. So what he actually told me is that he had many names in mind. And when it was my sannyas ceremony, he said he was sitting there and all these names were going through his mind. He hadn't quite decided. And then he said, like, literally 3 minutes before he gave me the name, he decided that this would be the name.
Wow.
And when he gave me the name, he said, Svayam Bhagavan Keshava. Of course, Keshava, in the famous song we sing, Keshava Drita Narahari Rupa. So Keshava is a name for Krishna, meaning the one who's the source of all incarnations in one sense. So Svayam Bhagavan Keshava, that's what it means. And he said, the reason I'm giving you that name is because I want you to travel the world and share with everyone you meet that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and establish that. And so, yeah, nowadays I walk around the world with that name,
Wow.
trying to live up to that. And
It's a heavy name in some ways, right? If you think about it in terms of that instruction, that's a lot to carry.
Yeah. And perhaps, it's always on my mind, because in an age where we're trying to reach people and we're trying to, build the bridges and like talk in a very understandable and sometimes, non-sectarian way, it's easy to put kind of Krishna at the back and kind of like talk about divinity and the absolute and, the higher power. And it's always in the back of my mind, Svayam Bhagavan Keshava, like somewhere along the line, you got to bring Krishna into the
it's
equation.
the prominence.
Wow.
So maybe that was also like a strategic reason why I got that, to try to be relevant, to try to build those bridges, but to also keep Krishna in the equation.
Yeah. Talking about His Holiness Kadamba Kanna Maharaj, his passing and the months or whatever weeks to his passing where you were there. I was watching the live streams and everything. Could you tell us a little bit about what your feelings were at that time and some maybe things people don't know about, like the behind the scenes of that amazing, glorious passing?
Yeah, it was Maharaj wanted us to be there in that final journey. In the last few years of my life, I've actually walked through that final journey with different individuals. Shriti Dharma Prabhu, some of you may know, the temple president at the Manor, who was a dear Shiksha Guru, and my friend Janaki Nath, who probably you guys also know.
Of course, yeah.
The smiling monk who, also left the world from cancer. So walking through that journey, when I was going to Vrindavan in that February of that year where Maharaj passed away, I already had myself prepared because I knew there's a very, Krishna consciousness becomes so relevant as we get closer to death. It's just like, wow, this is real. This stuff is real. And so I was going there, I was preparing for that. And I remember I came into Maharaj's apartment when I arrived in Vrindavan. And, naturally I saw him and, his body was pretty emaciated already. This was perhaps 3 weeks before he left. And I came in and I paid my obeisances and I said, Maharaj, I'm sorry, I should have been here before, but it's been a busy few months. I've been traveling on your order. So I said, it's been a busy few months. And then he looked at me and he said, it's going to be a busy few years. It's probably going to be a busy lifetime. You got lots of service to do.
Wow.
And then he told me to sit down, and I sat down, and he was lying in bed, and he was really not well. And then he said, get your computer. And so I got my computer, and he started dictating a letter for one project around the world and some of the intricacies. And he was like, yeah, we got things to do for Prabhupada. And that was the first amazing thing for me that, here's someone, you sometimes think what goes through the mind of someone who knows they've got 3 weeks left in this world. And in his mind was ensuring that the service of Krishna, the service of Srila Prabhupada here would go on well. And I thought that for me was the first amazing thing to see. And then, in those days, we observed Maharaj, 3 or 4 weeks before departing, he stopped eating. At one point, he stopped even taking water. And he just started giving away everything, to the point where his room was completely bare. And it was just like this incredible journey of just seeing someone just kind of tie up everything, let go of everything. And it came to the point where on that final day when he left, he was just literally in his room with a dhoti, and he was kind of lying on the bed like this. It was very iconic in one sense how he passed. He was kind of lying on his bed like this. And he just left very, very peacefully, at an incredibly auspicious time with all the devotees chanting. I remember in that room actually seeing His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj, who, it was an interesting dynamic because the spiritual master is seeing the disciple leave. and for us to also observe that as disciples. And Jadvaita Maharaj was just beaming. He was just beaming, and he was just like, he was so happy that it was just like, this is just the perfection of life. And so, yeah, it was hugely life-affirming, hugely painful as well, naturally. I sometimes talk about how the departure of the spiritual master is an unwelcome gift. Because I don't think you're ever going to welcome that. You're not ever going to accept it. You're never ever going to be like, that was, you know, in any way something I wanted to experience. But it's also a gift because it just forces you to connect now on a deeper level. And so, yeah, that's what we're kind of dealing with.
I'm always reminded of I think it's from the Bible, by his wounds we are healed. Like the same point
to Christ,
is that, So, I mean, it's such a tough thing to think about for those of us who are spiritual masters still around, but
and yet we see it like almost, I mean, I don't want to say with every passing day, but it feels so more and more frequent, right? I mean, at the time of this recording, at least most recently, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. And just that sense, and, you know, I don't mean to be, I don't think it's about being morbid, but maybe sobering is the word. But that realization that one day, right, like may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but one day, like it's going to be that morning for me and for my God siblings, and what's going to be our state of mind, what's going to be our consciousness, all of that.
Apparently, I don't know if I heard it attributed to His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj, but he often talked about crying for Krishna and how you got to learn this art of how to cry. And I think he once said in a lecture, or he said to a disciple, if you can't cry for Krishna, what will happen is one day I'll leave this world and then you'll cry for me. And that crying for me will help you to also cry for Krishna.
Like the intense crash course in how to cry for Krishna.
So, Kadambakana, I think Burijan Prabhu said that it's going to be the decade of tears.
That's famous verse, famous quote,
But an interesting thing I wanted to say is that oftentimes I had this experience, and you'll have to wait for me to qualify it because in the beginning it may sound like. But sometimes people would ask me what my feelings were when Maharaj would visit the UK. And I often told them the best part of Maharaj coming to the UK was when he left. And so like, when I say that, people are like...
I get some raised eyebrows when you say that.
Yes, people raise eyebrows. But my logic was this. It was amazing when we knew Maharaj was coming. It was like, wow, the anticipation. It was incredible when Maharaj came because just being with the spiritual master, learning, hearing, absorbing, and receiving instructions. But for me, I always felt that when he left, there was also an extra special excitement because it was like, now he's given me all these instructions. Like, because when the spiritual master's here, you're just like 24/7 serving the spiritual master. Like, you don't do anything else. And that's beautiful. But there was also this excitement that when he left, he was like, now I can try to actually put all of this into practice. Like, you get these instructions and they're like, you can actually do something with this in your life. And so when he would leave, then I would try to start putting those things into practice. And, you know, I think what gave me the faith in my spiritual master the most was just like every single thing he told me, even when it was unintelligible to me, always worked out. And it always brought me like an incredible wealth in my spiritual life. And so it would be so exciting when he left just to experience that and grow in your love for him by seeing that when you actually do what he tells you to do, it's like you feel Krishna's presence. And so even when I left, but obviously when he would leave, it was exciting but you'd always in the back of your mind know, like I could call him or he could always come back and I'll see him. Right. So when he actually left the world, of course, that's a whole different experience. But there is also that excitement there that now I can still connect with him. I can still be with him. I can still experience him. And I do feel that. Like, I know we say that a lot, like the spiritual master lives forever is in his instructions and the follower lives with him. And sometimes it feels to many of us like that it's nice, it's a comforting feeling, but can you ever really? But yeah, I'm not trying to pretend like I'm, but definitely I feel that. I feel that presence.
Reminds me of what Srila Prabhupada said. He always felt Srila Bhaktisiddhanta with him. Even when he was alone in New York, he always felt I was always with my Guru Maharaj. He was always with me.
Yeah. It's interesting because we do quote that a lot, or we do kind of invoke that idea. And I've also spoken with some devotees, kind of in confidence, so I'm not going to say anyone's name, but I've spoken with some devotees who actually don't find that comforting, particularly because, especially when we think about this sort of very idealized, or we can say this very kind of, this notion of getting very concrete instructions. And I've spoken to some devotees who say, well, I really feel like I haven't really gotten many instructions. And so the thought of my spiritual master residing in those instructions, that's not a comforting thought to me. That's quite terrifying, because the boost that I get is actually really, if not, even if it's at that 1-2 times a year that they see this individual, but it's like that presence, just being there. And of course, there's the idea of standing instructions and all of that. But yeah, I'm wondering what you sort of make of that.
Two things I'd say to that. One, something someone said to me, and one is my own kind of, insight into that and experience of, I didn't get many instructions from my spiritual master. One person said to me, whose spiritual master left, that when their spiritual master left, they didn't have much association. And so what they felt is that they really had to begin intensely hearing the spiritual master. And so they kind of went on this real intense kind of program of really trying to tune in to the lectures of their spiritual master. And, Prabhupada, apparently he did one time say, I instruct my disciples privately in public. And so there's this sense that the Guru has the ability to give a very individual instruction in seemingly a very public forum. And so this individual was intensely hearing. And what they actually said is that they felt they were just getting live instructions. And not just general stuff, they felt as though it was really live.
Yeah.
The spiritual master was speaking to them through that Vani, through that, and it just required them to open their heart and mind. And so that's definitely one aspect. And the other aspect that I feel that I've seen in the last couple of years since Maharaj's departure is that he definitely appears and continues to instruct through other eminent spiritual teachers. It's just other great Vaishnavas just come to you, and it just becomes very apparent to you that they're extensions almost of your, we have this saying, the Guru is one, and that the Guru manifests through different individuals. And so I really very much felt that there are individuals in this world who I very much feel channel that energy coming from the spiritual master, and like that.
Yeah. I love that idea. I think also it challenges us to, I think, reflect a little bit more deeply on what is instruction. Because I know for myself, sometimes I can fall into this kind of trap of having a very kind of cliched, almost romanticized idea, right? Instruction means one-on-one in a room, and Venkata, go to this place and start this program, and
being pushed out of a train car,
right? I remember reading that.
You are young, you are intelligent. Yeah. Why don't you
go to the Antarctica and whatever it is? And I love this idea of what would happen if I just started tuning in to these lectures.
Yeah.
And tuning in a way that what is the instruction for me that's here? And all of a sudden it's just becomes, bright, shining, clear that there's so much instruction for me right here.
Yeah, one devotee once said that to me, and it's one of those things that I kind of went in and out of, but when I did do it, it was really powerful. He used to say, when you go into a Bhagavatam class, just try and sit there for the first 30 seconds, close your eyes, and really just make a prayer to Krishna that now whatever I'm supposed to hear, whatever you want to tell me.
Yes.
Like, really, can you just make my heart and mind open to it?
I love that.
And
Love
it was
that,
just like, being in that, and then you receive,
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's,
One of the things I love about that also is it takes something that is a communal practice, which is nice because there's something very powerful about, especially when you're, when you're in a temple room or a setting with other devotees, even if you're not directly engaging with them, just side by side hearing Bhagavatam, there's something powerful about that. So I don't want to take away from that. But what I love about what the prayer that you just shared is it reminds us that it's also like a one-on-one thing between me and the Bhagavatam right now. Yeah. Even if I'm in a temple room full of other devotees who are having their own one-on-one, time with the Bhagavatam.
Yeah. And just one other thing I wanted to say on instructions, I liked your point that we sometimes have this very stereotypical idea of receiving instructions. Another thing that really occurred to me is that we receive instructions through observation. Like when you observe the spiritual master, when you see like what do they talk about, what do they spend their energy in, like what's on their mind, like what's important to them, then what you begin drawing is like the instructions before they even need to vocalize it, because you're like, this is how they want me to lead my spiritual life. This is what they want me to do.
Yeah.
And so like, it's like sometimes we passively wait for an instruction, like, okay, when's it coming? When's it coming? Tell me. When we can actually just look and, like they say, like that the first class disciple is the one who knows what the spiritual master wants even before they've said it.
Right.
Like something like that, right?
Yeah.
That kind of concept,
So just developing that skill or that muscle of observation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, as you mentioned, these things that we're talking about now are going to become so much more relevant for all of us, in the coming years. Like we really have to learn this art of connecting, like presence in absence,
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, there's two, you find sometimes these English statements which sometimes are contradictory, like birds of a feather flock together and then like opposites attract.
Right.
Or, like actions speak louder than words, but the pen is mightier than the sword. Or, too many cooks, too many masis spoil the broth,
Spoil the doll.
Yeah. Or many hands make light work.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
And
witches.
then, so it's like witches. And then there's this one, like absence makes the heart grow fonder, but then out of sight,
Out
Out of mind.
So it's like, which one is it? It's like both are true and both can be true. And for a disciple whose spiritual master has departed, which one is it going to be?
Yeah.
And that really depends on how much we've, and that's why I said it's an unwelcome gift, because it's like the greatest challenge, but it's pregnant with so much opportunity. Yeah.
When I was younger, I went through a phase for I think now looking back on it, for very sort of silly reasons maybe, but I went through a phase of almost being like if there was an opportunity to be physically close with my spiritual master, with my Diksha Guru, I might like forego that opportunity almost to be like, no, like I don't need the Vapu. I've been blessed so much. Like let another devotee have it. Like
Right.
Vani. And now looking back on it, it's just like, and there's maybe good reasons to it. So I'm not putting down, everyone who maybe comes to that conclusion, but I know for me, it wasn't coming from a place of any genuine spiritual realization. It was probably my own, oh, woe is me, look at me kind of stuff. But also now, as we all get older, thinking about, these are precious, precious opportunities, right? And so I may not exactly know why I'm being, blessed with this opportunity to be in this room right now, or to be on this walk right now, or to be in this place, or jump in that car, whatever it is. But I don't need to figure out why and, wrap my mind around it. It's just an opportunity that I can take.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think guru-disciple relationships are very interesting because they're so individual and devotees navigate them in such individual ways, And there are those devotees who are just sometimes like, I don't need to see the guru. I just really want to serve. And it just comes from such a sincere space, And then there are other devotees who are like, no, I have to serve. And that also can really come from a really sincere space. Like they're just eager. some devotees have like a very friendly, like I had some god brothers who had like such like this like alarmingly friendly relationship with Maharaj, and I was just like, this is like
the slap on the back relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like that. And it's like, for me, it's like existentially unnerving, you know, like I'm like, this is a guru, you know, like, you know, we had one of our god brothers who we were creating a schedule for Maharaj when he would come to London, and like, so he did the whole schedule, and then I looked at it, and like on one afternoon he was like, yeah, go and play tennis with Maharaj, you know. I was like play tennis with the guru. Like, you don't play tennis with the guru, you know. And it was just like, we didn't end up playing tennis, you know. And so I actually said that in an offering, and I was saying, actually the relationship with the spiritual master is actually like a game of tennis, because what they do is they like hit balls of instruction into your court, and then if you just kind of miss it, and then they hit another ball, and then you just kind of miss it, and then they hit another ball, and it's just like, there's no game. It's like really boring. But when they hit a ball of instruction into your court, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna do something with this, and boom, you hit it back. And they're like, okay, now let's hit it back. And then there's a rally.
Wow.
And there's a real exchange
that's
going
dynamic,
on.
right?
Yeah. And then it comes alive, you know? And so I think, so ultimately we do play tennis with the guru.
Yeah.
Traveling around, how has the response, or how has your God family reacted to the disappearance of Maharaj? Has it been like, how has it been in your observation?
Yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging for many. Maharaj also had many young disciples. He had many disciples who were initiated in the final stages of his life, who never, you know, had that time. And it's almost like, you do feel, it's interesting because like many wouldn't, even who were initiated for a long time, they never necessarily had a lot of contact with Maharaj. But just the fact that you knew he was on the planet, and then if really you needed to, you could connect. Just psychologically, even though they probably never connected or hardly ever connected, just psychologically knowing that. And I think just psychologically, like this thing that they're not there, like physically, that also just creates, almost a little bit of insecurity, you know. So they're working through that. But ISKCON is beautiful because we have so many aunts and uncles, you know, and so many senior devotees, and so I think anyone who's progressive just reaches out for help, and just connects and makes relationships and finds shiksha. And I think the progressive devotees who are doing that are doing great, and many of them are just like flying, and they're doing amazingly well. So we got to reach out and connect, isn't it? And find people who can help.
Has it felt like a process of growing up for you? I know we're sort of in the same age group, I guess. Some of us are a little older than others. I'm not going to say who, but the white beard is a giveaway, I think. No, but you know, for sort of this age group in general, I was thinking about this the other day also, because I mean, our parents, our biological parents are aging, many of us, right? They're 80s, 70s. That first generation of devotees are sort of all those uncles and aunts that you mentioned. Many of our Shiksha gurus and Diksha gurus are also kind of, and I feel like it's part of this process of kind of growing up into our own, you know, into our own selves or our own devotees. And at the same time, growing up can be painful, and sometimes it happens a little faster for some than others, or you're forced to grow up faster. Has it been your experience?
Growing up, I think for me, growing up has happened for a variety of reasons. I think one is you become a sannyasi, like you have to grow up.
You're a grown-up.
You have to grow up.
To, right?
It's like you have
really
to.
Looking at you.
People are really looking to you to play that role, and you know, and you have to do that with integrity and with maturity. So I think taking sannyas, definitely. I think Another one is, I think, managerially, like the leaders, so many of our leaders, especially in the UK, either departed or like moved on from active service. And there's almost this kind of whole, like there was always like, we'd always be involved in management, but it was like when something difficult came, it was like, okay, pass that one up,
Right.
And now it comes to the point where you're in a meeting and you're like, there ain't no one to pass it up to here.
The buck is like stopping with me.
Like, is there anyone up there? Like, no, you are. This is it. And it's scary. It's exciting. Sometimes you're in a meeting room and you're kind of like, not in an egotistical way, but you're kind of like, if I don't do anything about this, I don't think anyone else is going to do anything.
Yeah.
And this is it. Like, you have to take responsibility. And so I think that leadership kind of thing has also made me grow up. And then, of course, Maharaj leaving the world, that's also forces you to kind of grow up and also help those, who look to you for help. I think being on social media, surprisingly, in the last couple of years has also forced me to grow up a bit.
Yeah, we wanted to ask you a bit about that.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, let's
That's
talk about
interesting.
it.
Yeah, about social media?
Yeah.
And specifically, we can start with I'm curious, what do you mean by social media has forced you to grow up?
I mean, because you become a public figure. It's like you walk around the world, people know you before you've even like landed in the place. And it's like...
That's kind of bizarre, right?
Yeah, it's like people, out of their graciousness and their kindness, they're like, I listen to this every day. And I'm like... I don't even know if I take myself that seriously, It's amazing, and with the greatest of humility and in a mood of service, we're trying to share. But you realize the responsibility, like, you're putting content out there and it has to really come from a genuine space. It has to be real. It can't just be like a packaged thing, because people are consuming this and acting on it. And we have a responsibility to really serve the people appropriately, and we can't just be haphazard about it. So the power of social media to reach people, like, and experiencing that in whatever small way I've done, is like, it's really forced me to be more mature and to kind of balance it, and make sure I do that responsibly.
Yeah.
We were noticing yesterday about Tawako, how packed it was. We haven't seen it that packed for anyone, really, in recent years.
You, but it was like, we kind of, I think at a point we looked at each other and we were just like this, like, we haven't experienced, exactly that. We haven't experienced this.
And I think social media has something to do with that.
I think it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
I think there's probably many things, but also like, and social media is definitely a cause of this, but also like sort of I feel like that like any kind of boundaries or borders are becoming much more porous, right? So it's not even within the ISKCON world, it's, it used to be very much like, I go to XYZ temple. Yeah. I go to, it's like such and such. And now it's just like,
it's a global village.
It's a global village. And you see like people coming from everywhere and devotees. I know, again, not to embarrass you, but I know, you took off for your next program because you do 108 programs in a day, right? Apparently, or something like that. But, there were cars going like, okay, we're on to the next place, right? And that's, I think social media has a lot to do with that. we wanted to ask you a little bit more about this, but also just on the point of social media and doing it with integrity. And maybe this goes back to the thing you said earlier in terms of the way you understand the instruction that comes with your name. I would imagine the temptation with especially social media platforms is to be like a people pleaser, and to articulate things in a really kind of like slick, nice way that makes people feel really good, but ... you can finish that sentence, right? So how do you kind of navigate that?
See, what I tend to do, my strategy on social media is not to get into issues which require a much deeper conversation. And say maybe sometimes people do feel like I shy away from it, like I'm a total middle of the road type of person, you know. Like
It's like the
never
worst thing you could be
commit.
these days, right? It's like a centrist or something. Like,
Like, what's your opinion on this? And I'll give it like a real diplomatic answer. Some people say this, some people say this. So you could see it from different angles. But what do you think? Well, you have to see, you know.
Yeah.
And some people get annoyed by that. Not annoyed, but, you know, they're kind of like, why don't you just, you know, be straight, you know? And what I tend to do on social media, I just feel like, again, try to do it in a responsible way. I just feel because there's so many people with reaching, I have no idea who's consuming this. I don't know what state of mind they're in. I don't know how they're going to receive this and what they're going to do with this. So I'm very careful that I just try to put content out which is real, but which I feel is universal enough for everyone to take something good and empowering and encouraging away from it without putting into the ether there things that could kind of, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not, I know your strategy is also like maybe slightly different to that. And I think, and it's not like, I think there's room for everything. And I think, you know, but so that's generally the approach I've taken.
Yeah.
More than being slick and more than like giving the people pleasing messages. I don't really see it like that. I just try to give something that I feel will be universal and acceptable and kind of digestible for the, you know, like I came from UCL. So I studied at UCL. UCL was Jeremy Bentham's place, and Jeremy Bentham, his philosophy was utilitarianism, which is like the greatest good for the greatest, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So like when I put content out, I just think of that, like what's the greatest good for the greatest number of people, and I try to stick to that.
Wow, I didn't know you were a utilitarian until just now.
Just on that, I was kind of proud of utilitarianism and that line. And I went to the London Temple once and I was like, yes, I go to UCL, Jeremy Bentham, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And the devotee looked at me and he said, Krishna consciousness means the ultimate good for all people. I was like,
there's always like,
the devotee did a one-up on me there. You know?
Yeah. Understandable. I'm trying to think of digestible, understandable. I'm not sure if you use the word yet, but relevant is a word that I know.
Relevant. Yeah.
And then going back to the earlier point, right? Or non-sectarian, I think is another one we could put in there. All of that, and also bringing the really kind of unique value add of our traditions, realization and understanding and siddhanta and teaching of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
That probably requires a balancing act, or it does require a
balancing
balancing
act. For me, I have one measure of success in all the content that I put out. And that is that, does this inspire people to go back to the original source?
Does this inspire people
to go back to the original source in terms of the scriptures?
Wow.
That's what I'm trying to do by all of my content. It's like however I word it, however I present it, whatever I put out there, if at the end of it, people are like, wow, these books are amazing, like maybe I should study these books, then I feel like I've done my job. And so like I really try to, and it's a balancing act because you don't also want to like, you know, like skew out meanings from Shastra that may not even be there. It's like kind of like where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that from? You know, but at the same time, being very authentic.
Meanings that would again be like
there are some devotees who, and just to be very honest, sometimes they feel like we read into the text too much to kind of bring out like this is what the world says. And somehow we're trying to make the Shastra say this, you know?
Right. So like kind of force-fitting
like
a popular opinion
onto that.
into the Shastra.
And it's like, this was already said like 5,000 years ago, like, you know, that kind of thing.
Krishna's the original social justice warrior or something.
But the other way to look at it is that, you know, without sounding fanatical, that the Veda, like I mean, it's the source of all knowledge. So that how can there be anything disconnected from the Shastra? Like, that's the other way to see it. Yeah. It's like, It's this whole thing about like anthropomorphism. Like, is it that we're projecting an image of humanism on God, or is it that we are made in the image of God? Like, which way are you going to take it around, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's another way to see it that I feel, yeah, like I hang around in airports nowadays a lot, and I'm always going through the books, and I'm like, I read these books and I'm like, this is in Shastra. I really do see it. It's in Shastra. And
it just takes a certain kind of vision to make that connection, or to
the world is just really good at taking a principle and just making it really applicable and relevant and digestible, like all those words I said. Like, you know, the 5 a.m. club. It's like, we got Mangal Aarti every day, you know, like, but like the way it's been explained and broken down scientifically and empowering and all of that, like we could perhaps use a bit more of that, you know, rather than just like, yeah, can you show up to Mangal Aarti? Like, so.
Going back to social media, how much of it do you personally interact with?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Because I know it's like a razor's edge when it comes to social media. Like you can easily, like I fall into it so much, just getting, you know, just the time goes. Consuming. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm really happy you said this, because it really gives me an opportunity online with your huge viewership and everything, and you know, utilizing your platform. Just to say, like, no, but just to really say, like, a huge thanks to the team. You know, like. Because it's like people are like, yeah, you're amazing. And it's like there's this whole team who just do like the thankless task of like doing all those reels, editing it, putting on the subtitles, you know.
Yeah.
And that's like such a, you know, task. And it's like sometimes, yeah, I feel like so much of the credit, if there is any credit for people, you know, like benefiting from that content, has to go to them. So yeah, I'm really, really fortunate. There's like an incredible team, and they've encouraged me to do things. Like I've always been a bit reserved. I'm like, no. And they're like, they push me, they encourage me, and that's really good. So generally I don't have to interact with it. Like I give a class, like people, it's recorded, and then people take it away, do stuff with it, and it's out there.
Right.
But what I do periodically is log into my accounts and see what people are saying.
Like the comment section?
The comments.
Oh, wow.
The comments, yeah.
That's brave.
I know,
I was about to say, that's some real courage
I mean,
there,
you know about all of this as well, you know. So the comments, the messages, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, and it's good. It really edifies me, I think, you know. Right. It's like when you read a comment, there's different sides of you that come out. Like there's a defensive side that comes out, and then there's like a logical side that comes out, and then there's a like a spiritual kind of more mature side that comes out, you know. Like I remember I put out something, I don't know, I was obviously encouraging people to take up, you know, a more determined spiritual practice, and someone kind of just put a comment like, it's easy for you, you don't have a job, you don't have a family, you don't have all the complexity that we have, you know. And and so I heard that comment, and, you know, like my defensive side was like, yeah, well, why didn't you just come and join me then, you know?
Yeah, right. Like you see how easy it is.
So that was the defensive side, and then my logical side, but then eventually I read that comment, and I was kind of like, I don't have a job in one sense. I don't have a family, and, you know, I've been gifted with a lot of time, and maybe I should be doing more. Like maybe I really should. Like maybe this is like also something I can learn from that. You know, and so like that, then I just try to take it like that. So yeah, so that's my interaction with it. And, you know,
it reminds you of like Krishna Narada Muni visiting Dwarka to see what Krishna was doing with all the wives and things. And one of the things Krishna was doing was like
meditate.
No, he was like talking to the ministers, or like disguising himself and seeing what the people were saying. About him.
That's a thing, right? Like,
like to see.
Well, you hear about, like Lord Ram, right? It said he would go incognito,
you
know. So
your interaction has been like just to see what people are saying and things.
Yeah.
And because we have a team, that's really good. I think that's really
and then sometimes
helpful.
It's also a little bit cringing, but sometimes I watch back some of my stuff, you know.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it's kind of like,
Yeah, what's that like for you? So I know some, you know,
I mean,
It's
I watch my own
strange.
podcasts. Like,
yeah.
you're okay with it.
yeah, I'm okay with it because
I think it's like a
you have
personality
to.
thing. It's very hard for me to watch my own stuff. Very, very hard for me too. Like, and the cringe factor is very high. I think I have a super weird sounding voice. I use the word like way too much. I know all of these things. But I think it's a psychological thing also.
I think because you guys are like more established speakers, but like for someone like me, if I give a Bhagavatam class, I'd like to hear it back to like see what I can improve on, type thing.
Yeah, I have a very different experience when I hear my own content. Like, sometimes I'm just like, I need to stop doing this. Like, I'm honestly like, I just like,
Wow.
oh my God, like, who is this guy? You know, like, I don't know this person, you know?
Wow.
I really do. Sometimes and then other times I'm like, how do I say this without sounding like,
just go for it. Just
cringy?
say it.
Like, I'm like, that was pretty good. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was like, you know, wow, it's like, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm someone like, you know, the Messiah who's channeling a higher message. But you know,
Svayam
we heard,
Bhagavan. Jagadguru Svayam Bhagavan.
Oh my God, BBD, stop.
but you
can
know,
edit that part out.
we do hear this, this thing that sometimes when you're on the Vyasasana, then, you know, it's like, you're representing the
Yes.
parampara, and you begin to sometimes say things you don't even know. Like, I wouldn't go that far. Like, I've not come out with like something completely, but sometimes the way it's been articulated, I'm just like, wow, I need to write that down. Like, make sure I say that. Like, that was really.
Well, and I think, you know, without making it sound like we're suggesting some kind of, you know, uber mystical channeling type of thing, but like, right, there is something to be said for this idea of like nimitta matram, like being the instrument, and even in like, wow, I didn't plan to phrase that in this way, but Krishna wanted me to say it in that way. And, you know, and I wonder if you also have the experience of like people in your audience kind of like resonating with like I needed to hear that exact thing today, right? And that I know that for me that's often
really,
like one of those indications, like it's not me, like Krishna wants something to flow through.
And and I think, you know, coming back to reading comments and good comments, it's like encouraging comments. I think we need that as well, isn't it? It's like, I was in the final days with Janaki Nath, and I remember he was on a Zoom call with his friends in Govardhan Eco Village. So, you know, it was the last time they were going to see him in this lifetime. So they're all offering their gratitude and their glorification. And we came off the call. I remember it was like midnight, and we were in the room together. And he looked at me and he was like, I like hearing myself glorified. He goes, is there a problem with that? And then I didn't answer. And then he answered for himself. He said, actually, hearing that glorification makes me feel like my life was worthwhile because I could serve the Vaishnavas. And I thought, wow, that's so beautiful that, you know, when we take the kind words of others and we take it in a sense that they're accepting my service, you know. I was just with His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, and I was asking him, like, he's so kind of very introverted in one sense. By his own admission, he's a loner. You know, and I was asking him, like, how do you interact with all these people? Like, how do you live such a public life when you're... And he said something beautiful to me. He said, anyone who's willing to accept my service, I accept them as worshipable.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's such an incredible way to see it, that anyone who's actually like accepting what I'm able to offer, they're making my life worthwhile. They're making my life meaningful, and therefore they're actually they should be offered all respect. And so I think it's like that, that when people come and like, that was great, thank you for doing that, that really helped me. It's like, instead of becoming proud, it should deepen our service. Actually, like, I need to keep on doing this to make my life worthwhile.
Like my offering has
has
meaning,
it's being
has
accepted.
purpose, it's being accepted.
Shifting gears just a little bit, something I like to ask devotees who travel a lot, you experience talking to various different devotees, communities and things. What have you seen is what devotees struggle with the most? Like, is there a theme of what devotees ask you and then how do you, what kind of advice do you give them?
Okay, yeah, this is a good question. I think one thing definitely is the perennial balance question. Like, people have so many aspirations of what they want to do in spiritual life and where they want to be. And it's just like, but I got this whole complicated life situation. I've got all my responsibilities. And there's this perennial kind of dissatisfaction with devotees feeling like, I just need to be doing way more, but I can't because my life doesn't allow it.
Like doing more spiritually?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Whether it's service or sadhana or whatever, it's like just devotees don't have time, and headspace or whatever. And that's why I think, we really have to think about how we can help devotees to find more suitable lifestyles and ways of living in this world and navigating all their duties in a way that opens up time. Maybe the future is like families of devotees living together, even if it's not on a farm and all of that, kind of, which, is also important. And then one family cooks for everyone, one takes all the kids to school, and you just kind of start creating a community where you open up more time,
right.
And so anyway, without going too much into detail, I think that's a huge theme. I think another theme is definitely guilt. And, there's the ideal of our spiritual standards. There's the reality of where I am. There's that gap, and that gap causes a guilt. And so whether it's spoken or unspoken, I think the good thing is that it's increasingly becoming something that devotees talk openly about.
Yeah.
Which is great. Like, we were on TSI and without revealing, that session, because we did a session.
Sure.
And we were just really open, and it was incredible to see like everyone just talking about, what everyone else is dealing with, but what nobody else wants to talk about, Or
that willingness to talk, that openness is itself like a good sign, yeah?
It's a good sign, yeah. So that, and maybe there could be many more, but I guess the third thing is just community politics, community issues, relationship strains.
Do they come with you to specific things?
Yeah, people you can see they have issues with leadership, issues with authorities, issues with other devotees and how they conduct themselves. And you can kind of you come into communities and you can immediately begin to sense from the questions that are asked and what the kind of
Sometimes even in a class, right? There's like a veiled sort of like, so hypothetically, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
How do you, that's a really tricky one to step into, especially as someone who is a monastic, who's not from that community, who's visiting, right? And I imagine sometimes inadvertently they're putting pressure on you to like kind of fix this, right?
Yeah, it's awkward from many sides. You come in and leadership want you to give certain messages like, can you talk about this? Can you say this? I'm like, can you write out the class for me? I'll just read it out, Yeah. So that's one aspect. And then sometimes in the audience, you can clearly see there's a question that's being asked because they want to elicit something from you that becomes the uvacha, the mahavakya.
Right.
Yeah. That, it was said on the Vyasasana, it's very clear this is, so then you have to think a million times before you say something. And it's so complex because there's so many sides to the story,
right.
And I think that's the difficulty of the age we live in, that often we hear things and there's this kind of anchoring bias as well, whereby the first thing you hear when you enter into a place just somehow sticks more with you.
Yes.
And you're like, once someone said something about someone else, it doesn't matter how many other good things you hear, it's already in your mind, And so there's all these complexities, but yeah, we just try to be kind, try to be balanced, and at the same time, try to give practical advice that can help,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. similar to Nam's question, but now I'm thinking specifically of an audience that, and we were chatting about this a little bit earlier, but it seems like you have, especially in the last couple of years, you've really, really resonated with, among other audiences, I don't know quite how to categorize it, but what we would call maybe second gen devotees in general, but also second gen Indian American or British Indian devotees. We were talking about this earlier, how, I think in many ways, and I've heard this from some devotees, like they really kind of see themselves in you, even on the sort of like cultural levels.
Right.
What has that experience been like, and what are you hearing from that particular audience?
Yeah, I guess that kind of demographic is bridging two worlds, the tradition of growing up, in a certain culture with a certain upbringing, which was very much rooted in either substantial spirituality or at least cultural practice. And then, just interfacing with the world out there, and you both have this experience as well. But no, it's been very encouraging to speak to those individuals from that demographic, and I think that demographic has so much to offer the world, amongst all others as well. But yeah, they have a special kind of blessing from both sides, and I think it's a lot of the future of sharing spirituality and Krishna consciousness in the world is the ability to blend tradition with modernity. And I think this demographic has like a lot of input on both sides to be able to do that. So it's been nice to connect with that audience. But to be honest, I don't really aim for any audience. So I just kind of speak, and whoever comes is like, all right, let's go, I know some kind of teachers and preachers, if you will, like very much go for a certain audience. Like, I'm going to tailor my presentation for this audience. Whereas for me, I really, my ambition is to try to speak to to make something relevant for like whichever audience I'm speaking to, and to have that broad appeal.
Yeah.
So I don't also try to I'm going for these,
And in a sense, maybe it's just sort of a natural fit again, because that just sort of shared experience, right? Of like, this is someone that even without you saying it, I can imagine for like a young Indian American or British Indian or wherever, other sort of diasporic identities, they're like, oh yeah, like
you can take it seriously.
Yeah, I can take, like, if he can do this, then like maybe this path is,
Right.
We all need a role model, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think that's, and someone who's walked the path, and, we see in people so much of ourselves, and then we see another side to them, and it's like, wow, that I could also have that. So yeah, I think.
When you were growing up, do you feel like you had those kinds of role models?
Yeah, I did actually. I was coming to the manor and just seeing like brahmacharis, like from the Indian background. Of course, at that time, not that many Indians were kind of, I think in kind of the early 2000s when we joined, I joined in 2002, I think we were the kind of, there were obviously Indians who joined, but for a long period there wasn't. But yeah, those few that we joined, who had joined and we had received mentorship from, it was like, wow, yeah, they really spoke to what we could do in our life, and it was like inspiring to see.
Yeah. Do you feel like your sort of hybrid identity is a strength now that you can bring to your...
I think it's good. I think what makes it good is that it just helps me to connect with the East and the West.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in India, I can just be like more Indian, you know.
Can lean into that
Just
side a little
lean
bit.
into that side of it. Yeah. Although my Gujarati and Hindi is terrible. I need to work on that.
You speak both?
Gujarati, yes. Hindi, very little, but not very well either.
You're not doing like, you're not
I
giving,
should actually.
You don't give classes.
I was listening
in
to a
Hindi.
class yesterday. It was about distraction. It was something in Delhi.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you were pulling out some of the
few-
Hindi and
few,
stuff, and
oh,
they were
yeah.
loving it though. You know,
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I think like, just like, you know, a phrase or two, and then it's so
Yeah, that's
endearing to
enough,
them. They're
that's
like,
enough,
oh, that's
yeah.
enough. Like,
like when Kripamoya Prabhu speaks Gujarati.
Gurpreet was like,
They love
his Gujarati's on point though. He like, yeah.
There's some things.
And then when I'm in the West, then I can just, you know, growing up in London and you know, speak to their needs, interests, and concerns. So
Yeah.
it's a great adventure, and I love speaking to all those audiences. Like it's beautiful. It's beautiful to speak to anyone who's open and enthusiastic in an age where it can just be like, no, we're going to aim for this audience, or we need to really, this is the one. These ones count for 5 points. These count for 2.
Right.
It's a little, you know, like.
Yeah,
We've been talking about that so much.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, that gets a little bit.
And of course, there are parts of our movement clearly that are underdeveloped that we do need to put emphasis on.
Sure,
but
sure.
not to lose the human kind of like everyone's a soul, and like
Yeah.
every soul is amazing, you know. And it.
Well, it's one of the things I appreciate so much about your whole approach and your style, and just you as a communicator, is this idea that like it's all those words that we used earlier, right? Digestible, understandable, right? You're being
Relevant.
intentional about that, relevant. And also it's something that can be appreciated by multiple demographics, right? It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm tailor fitting this to these people. Like it doesn't feel forced and performative in that way.
Yeah.
It's like,
The interesting thing is that I find that when you speak to the Indian audience, they really like the Western aspects that you bring in. Like for them, that's like, wow, that's really cool. You know, like, you know, start dropping a few names and this and that, a few philosophers, and they're like, wow, they really. And when you speak to the Western audience, like you're just like, you know, you bring in, you know, avyaktim, vyaktam, apanam, manyate. You bring in a Sanskrit verse, and they're like, wow, they appreciate that
Yeah.
authenticity.
yeah,
and
this is
that,
such a
you
great
know,
point,
so-
right?
Yeah,
Because
very
I
good
think
point.
it makes sense, right? We appreciate sort of like just as human beings, I think, right? We don't want to just like hear the same monolithic thing that's like, right? Like the idea of like that, like a non-Indian person just wants to hear and connect on like non-Indian
Yeah,
things. That
yeah,
seems a little silly, right? It's like, yeah. I know we're probably coming towards time, but can we embarrass Keshava Maharaj a little bit more? Because this just reminded me of something. Again, one of the many things like that I really, really appreciate about your classes is this mix of, right, the practical wisdom,
Yes.
the you know, citing examples from the secular world, right? The Bill Gates quote here, or like, you know, a Western philosopher from the, you know, 18th century, and then also like deep connection to Shastra. Your recall for Shastra is astounding. It's amazing. It's impressive. It may or may not incite some envy if I'm willing to admit it on the air. Do you have a photographic memory? I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm actually asking because I know some devotees who do have a
I
photograph.
don't
Yeah, yeah.
know how you define a photographic memory. Like,
What's your process?
kind of
when
like, nowadays I never go into a class with notes, but I do know in my mind like the kind of 5 or 10 points that I'm going to make and roughly in what order.
Wow.
And then what I
and
try
all your
to do-
Shastra references also, so you're not.
Yeah, some of them come just off the cuff, you know, of inspiration or whatever. But yeah, I have pretty much in my mind. I just find I've never been able to speak from notes. I just can't do that. To me, it doesn't feel, and it's not to say it's wrong or right, but it just, for me, I have to try to speak from a deeper place. Sometimes I struggle. Sometimes I'm in a class, I'm in front of the mic and I'm kind of like speaking and I'm thinking on my mind, I have no idea what I'm going to say next. Something's going to
Wow.
there's this like, And so sometimes you may see me in classes, like sometimes I'm like, my eyes go closed and it's not like I'm in some deep meditation. I'm just like, what am I going to say next here? You know? So sometimes it's like, so do I have a photographic memory? I don't think so. But I think what I've done is I like verses. I think it's beautiful. I think it has a potency, it has a power because it's Krishna's words. It's descending from a different plane, and it gives me, I feel it gives accuracy, clarity, and it gives a lot of impact. So I try to recite verses. I like doing that.
What is your process?
But I guess the other thing I wanted to say is that, like, I don't like, for me actually speaking is, and again, people may not kind of see this, but for me it's like, it's not what I like doing. Let me say that again. I like doing it because I know I can render some service as we were talking to others, and that is very rewarding, but I don't find it easy. Let me put it that way. For me, my most authentic communication means is through writing. Like when I write, I just feel like this is what I should be doing.
Wow.
This is what I really want to do. And so I try to write in my life, and I like writing, and I hope and pray I can do more of that. But speaking somehow became the prominent thing, so we do that. But it's not always easy, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking, sometimes you're in an audience and you're just like, oh my God, like I'm not connecting here. I don't think the message is getting across. I'm like, people are getting bored. Like I don't think and then you really got to dig deep. But the amazing thing is you have no idea how people are actually receiving your class. It's like, sometimes you can think like, you know, I nailed it. and actually people like, they may not, but and so other times it's the complete opposite, and people really connect. So
in conclusion, I did want to talk about the institution and how after taking sannyas, did you feel sometimes when people take sannyas, it's like, oh, now you're an ISKCON sannyasi. So you relate with the institution in a certain way, and there might
Maybe
be some
represent the institution. There
might be some kind of overbearingness of the institution. How has your relationship changed after you've taken sannyas?
I wouldn't say much for me.
Interesting.
For me, it hasn't. I don't think it's such a big change institutionally. Of course, we talked about growing up and being more responsible and being more careful. And naturally, you know, ISKCON, as with any organization, has its, you know, fair share of debates and, you know, controversies, and people always want to know where you stand on each one. And thanks to both of you for not putting me on the spot in this podcast. And
I've been going away from that a lot more lately.
I think also, somehow you have this little bit of this reputation of being quite controversial. And like now I'm kind of seeing your podcast, I'm like, these are just devotionally very beautiful. Like it doesn't always have to be.
My main thing has been now small minds discuss people, medium minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas.
Okay.
So that's like not been my meditation now, just to try to do more like idea sharing, opening conversations up that aren't usually conversed about. Like we spoke to Jayadvaita Maharaj just a few weeks ago. He was on the podcast. It's coming out in 2 weeks now. And he was talking about his Kirtan Standards book and how Sachinandan Maharaj said about the book that this is a beginning of a conversation.
Yeah.
The book is just the beginning of a conversation, which I really, really jive with.
That was the mood that I hope that kind of was the mood of the episode with Jayadvaita Maharaj itself, was like, we're touching on some things, we're agreeing on some things, we're sort of seeing some space for further exploration, but it's the beginning of a conversation, not the be all end all kind of like shutting down.
Anyway, you were making a point about your...
So I don't know where I was.
It was about your relationship with the institution.
The institution. So I don't feel like... sometimes people feel like you come into an ISKCON position and it's kind of suffocating. You can't be yourself. You have to like toe the line. You can't say what you really think. And I don't know, like maybe I'm also just not that type of person. Like, but I didn't really feel that. Like, what can I say? Like Krishna, he gave me the life I always wanted. And there's always a moment when I wake up and I'm in Mangalarti and I'm like, just like, Krishna, thank you for letting me be here. You know, like anything I've ever wanted to do, always wanted to try to help the world. I always wanted to travel and share and simplicity and just everything I ever wanted. It was like Krishna gave me everything, you know. It's like, and ISKCON is our home, and Srila Prabhupada is my boss, you know, and all his servants are my you know, my inspirations, and I just really feel fortunate. So yeah, for me, it's not suffocating. It's not. Yeah, there are some lines we have to kind of work within. Maybe they're good lines, you know, and maybe they help me also to stay on track. So yeah, no complaints. It's
Nice.
It's all good.
Did you have any final things?
I mean, I hope this is the first of many conversations. I
Sure,
know
sure.
You've been on previously.
Yeah.
This is our first opportunity to kind of
Do it
sit
in
down
person,
in
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
But hopefully not the last. So many more things to get into. But I think this is
We're really cutting it short, actually. Normally we go about 2 hours, right?
Yeah, but we have to be mindful. Maharaj has 64 more programs to do, and
63.
63. Oh, okay, check. A couple more podcasts to record. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Appreciate it.
No, it's wonderful being with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.